PC fam? This is your boy, Geek Ghost Gamer Top on the microphone, and we're about to get to a very interesting developer confirmed leak from an article on the Famitsu interview. Well, the wait is finally over. The developers behind Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls have officially broken their silence. In a brand new Famitsu interview, Arc System Works producer Takeshi Yamanaka just dropped some massive hints about the last members for both Dr. Doom's villain team and Robbie Reyes' outlaw crew. We know the launch roster has 20 slots, but with 12 characters now confirmed, that leaves just 6 spots totally open for the remaining DLC captains for Doom and Robbie Reyes. These new clues give us our biggest look yet at who's going to fill those roles. Plus, with new reveals like the configurable American comic shaders for characters like Storm and Robbie Reyes, the hype is at an all-time high. We're going to break it all down, connecting the dots between the developers' cryptic words and decades of Marvel lore to figure out who's coming to the game. This isn't just random guessing. This is evidence-based speculation. We're looking at a game with 20 characters at launch, split into 5 teams of 4. 3 of those teams are now completely set. We have the Fighting Avengers, with Captain America, Iron Man, Shuri as Black Panther, and a Savage Hulk. We have the Amazing Guardians, a wild team-up of Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Ms. Marvel, and Penny Parker. And we have the Unbreakable X-Men, featuring Storm, Magic, Wolverine, and Danger. Now, the inclusion of characters like Danger and Magic was seen as a controversial choice by some American Marvel fans, as they are deeper cuts compared to more mainstream X-Men. It shows Arc System Works isn't afraid to dig into the lore, which makes the last 6 slots, Dr. Doom's and Robbie Reyes' entire team, even more exciting to predict. This Famitsu interview gave us everything we need to figure them out. So, let's get right into it. Our first clue comes from a question about Dr. Doom's team. The interviewer asked what kind of villains could really stand shoulder to shoulder with the monarch of Latveria. According to the translation, Yamanaka laughed and said they needed characters who understood the complex dynamics of family, power, and persecution. He specifically mentioned wanting a team that reflects Doom's own tragic and grandiose view of the world. The community has been buzzing for months, but that phrase, family, power, and persecution, is basically a neon sign pointing directly at 2 of the most requested characters. It has to be Magneto and the Scarlet Witch. Let's just break down the evidence, because it's pretty overwhelming. First, remember that now infamous leak from the Bulgarian retailer, Ozone? Their pre-order page for Marvel Tokon explicitly listed Magneto and Scarlet Witch as playable characters before it was suddenly scrubbed. The page even called them the father and daughter duo. A retailer leak that specific, which gets removed that quickly, almost always has some truth to it. Now, connect that leak to Yamanaka's new hint. Family, power, and persecution. Is there any family in Marvel more defined by those 3 words? For decades in the comics, Magneto was believed to be the father of Wanda and Petro Maximoff. Their entire history is a tangled mess of being hunted for their powers. Magneto's obsessive quest for mutant supremacy to protect his family, and Wanda's reality warping abilities. That covers power and persecution right there. The family dynamic, even with modern retcons, is still their most iconic story and a perfect fit for a villain team led by someone as complex as Doom. Putting Magneto on Doom's team just makes sense. He's one of the only villains in Marvel who can match Doom in intellect, raw power, and sheer presence. He's also a fighting game legend from the Marvel vs. Capcom days, and not including him would feel like a huge miss. Arc System Works knows this. With those two filling half of Doom's team, what about the other two? A recent trailer might have hidden a clue. At the end of the Fighting Avengers trailer, there were flashing symbols in the corner, and one was the number 361 repeated. Following the logic that these numbers point to cosmic issues, that could be a deep-cut reference to the Amazing Spider-Man number 361, the first appearance of Carnage. Carnage is pure chaos and would bring a wild, aggressive playstyle to the team. A team of Doom, Magneto, Scarlet Witch, and Carnage would be terrifying, combining tactics, overwhelming power, reality warping magic, and pure aggression. Next up, the devs dropped hints about Robbie Reyes' team. They've been clear about choosing Robbie over Johnny Blaze for story purposes. In the interview, Yamanaka was asked what kind of crew would follow a hero who drives a possessed muscle car.
Haven't seen any burning cars.
Why don't we change that?
Gabe, I got into a fight. I know. We should never go looking for them. But sometimes, little brother, the fight comes to you.
He said they wanted a team that walks the line between the street and the supernatural. He described them as outlaws and loners forced together by a common enemy. People who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. That one phrase, street and the supernatural, is the key. This isn't just a street level team. This is Marvel Tokon's version of the Midnight Suns. The community has been buzzing for months, and Yamanaka's hint basically confirms the most popular theories for at least 3 of the 4 slots. These are most certainly going to be Blade, Nico Minoru, and Man-Thing. Let's start with the obvious one, Blade. He perfectly embodies the street and supernatural theme. He's a core member of the Midnight Suns in the comics, and his fast-paced sword and gun combat is practically made for an Arxis game. The second slot is where things get really interesting. The clue about loners forced together points right at Nico Minoru, a sorceress and former member of the Runaways. She wields the Staff of One, a magical artifact that lets her cast any spell she can think of, but only once. Her inclusion would be a nod to modern Marvel comics and a great surprise for fans. But what about Deadpool? I mean, the merc with the mouth is a strong pick.
Boy, this is gonna be fun! Whoa! Easy now, fellas! I'm the one who set you free! Oh, hey, this was not the plan! Alright, you rejects. Get Tyrannosaurus Rex!
And Arxis would capitalize on the hype of the game. Just imagine, fam. That leaves the muscle. This has to be Man-Thing. Man-Thing is the guardian of the nexus of all realities. A swamp monster whose touch burns anyone who feels fear. He isn't a hero or a villain. He's a force of nature, which fits the loner description perfectly. But what about the 4th slot? The developers have been silent, which has allowed fans to run wild with speculation. The community is torn, with many arguing that the other Outlaw members like Moon Knight or Morbius or Outlaw Kid would be a perfect fit, each bringing their own unique brand of street-level justice and supernatural connection to the team. So what does this all mean for Marvel Tokon? If these predictions are right, these two teams will completely shape the game's meta. Doctor Doom's team with Magneto and Scarlet Witch becomes a terrifying zoning and control squad. It would be a nightmare to get close to, forcing you to play a patient, careful game. On the other hand, Robbie Reyes' Midnight Crew would be a hyper-aggressive rushdown team. Blade would bring relentless pressure. Robbie would have tricky movement. Nico would provide unpredictable assists. And Man-Thing would be the big grappler to punish defensive players. It creates a perfect clash of styles. And the Merc with a mouth, Deadpool, for Robbie Reyes' Outlaw team seems a pretty big team dream for Marvel Tokon fighting game fans. With the base roster of 20 characters seemingly accounted for, the conversation is already shifting to what's next. The recently leaked Year 1 Ultimate Pass poster has thrown gasoline on the fire, teasing silhouettes of characters to come. While it's too early to say for sure, this confirms Arc System Works has a long-term plan for the game, which, combined with deep cosmetic options like the American comic shaders that can be configured for any character, shows a huge level of commitment. So, to sum it all up, based on the Famitsu interview and existing leaks, it looks like we're getting Magneto, Scarlet Witch, and Carnage with Doctor Doom, and Blade, Nico Minoru, and Deadpool, and Man-Thing with Robbie Reyes. These predictions feel solid, backed by developer hints, credible leaks, and a lot of fan hope. But that's just my take. Who do you think the final members of Doom's and Robbie's teams are? Is there a better fit for that fourth villain slot than Carnage? And who do you think is hiding on that Year 1 Ultimate Pass poster? Let me know your predictions in the comments below. I read all of them and want to know what you think. And of course, if you want to stay up on all the latest Marvel Tokon news and roster speculation, don't forget to like, subscribe to Geek Ghost Gamer Top, and ring that bell so you don't miss an update. So, that's it for the video, fam. So, fam, thanks for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games. Check y'all in the next one. Away!